I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, y'all. We got a good show for you. Stay with me for the next hour. We are going to be talking about Kitsap Eviction Assistance Program information. This is information that you need to have, even if it's not for yourself, for someone that you may know or come across. So I want you to be able to have this information so that you can share it out to those in the community. Now, if you are just hearing about the Kitsap Eviction Assistance Program, it's been around for a little bit, and its origins were a result of COVID, right? People weren't able to work, weren't able to pay their rent subsequently. And so we needed to do something. So the federal government stepped in and created these programs, which is awesome, to help people to stay in their homes and not be evicted during a pandemic, which I think we would all agree is pretty important. But right now it's more endemic than pandemic. But these things continue to persist long after the issue is gone. And so there are lots of folks, unfortunately, that are still unable to pay their rent or behind on their rent. But there is a program out there that may be able to help. So over the next several minutes, we're going to go over the program. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you how to access it, show you how to get information so that you can share that information out. Hopefully, you can even share this podcast out with someone. You say, hey, you know what? I came across this and this might help you and your family. And hopefully they can gain some help from it. So that is my hope. And, again, these things are so critically important. There's a ton of resources out there. Unfortunately, we don't always hear about it and are able to access it. Or when we are able to access it, it's too late, which is really unfortunate. So without further ado, and what I'm going to do is I'll put some information in the chat so that you can have links to it. And if you can't stay with us for the entire time, you'll be able to come back and access it later. Okay. And so this is the kitsapgov.com. And this will take you to the pages here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat there so that you have it. Go ahead and put that in there for you. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. All right, so there you see it. And what I did is I just Googled Kitsap Community Housing or Eviction Assistance Kitsap, and that will pop up, okay? Matter of fact, maybe I should show you that. It just popped up in another window there so that you can see it. Let me just pull that off here and go ahead and show you that window so you can see it. Sometimes when we go and look for information and we start Googling, we can go into a rabbit hole and not find what we're looking for, which can be extremely, extremely frustrating. So here we go. I just typed in here in Google, as you can see, Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance. And here it is, this first one. So you'll see this KEPA, Kitsap County, and you can go ahead and click on that, and then it will actually open up in a new tab. So if you see me click it here, as such, it'll just take me right there. So that is where we are, okay? And what you'll see, and again, this is Kitsap County, which is awesome. And it's always good to just kind of look at web pages when you come across them so you can kind of familiarize yourself with the website. This is what we did during COVID in regards to Kitsap Public Health, right? I would go over how to access the website, how to interpret information, any updates, because those things are all important. Now, what's really awesome is, look, Ma, no hands. You can actually hover over the different tabs and you don't have to click. A lot of times we get really nervous. We come to a website and we're looking for something and we see something. And it's like, oh, we need to click on it. And we click and it's like, oh, where did we go? So you don't need to do any of that, but hover your mouse over and you can see all the different resources that are here: aging and long-term care, block grants, all kinds of other things here. We're not going to be concerned about any of that right now, but that's just kind of a FYI for you. Kitsap Recovery Center, housing and homelessness, developmental disability program, a commission on children and youth, substance abuse prevention services, veterans assistance, suicide prevention. So there's a really, there's a lot of good stuff on the kitsap.gov website. So I encourage you to just kind of visit, even if you're not in need of eviction assistance, because there's a lot of information that, you may have been wanting to know and just didn't know how to access it. Okay. Well, we're just going to scroll down here and you'll know that you come to the right place because you'll see the Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance banner here. And you'll see different topics, right? So here's homelessness. Here's the division home. You'll see the homeless crisis response and housing plan, homeless management. Last week, we talked about the point in time count. There's a myriad of resources here that are clickable, reports and data on homelessness, which I think is really important. And the county has done their first point in time count. They didn't do it last year, but they did it this year. So that's important to know how many people are experiencing homelessness. And we know that there are so many folks that are experiencing insecurity in regards to their housing, right? And there's the wait list as of, I'm thinking maybe 3 weeks ago was 500 or more from Matt's reporting, right? Folks that were on the wait list to receive eviction assistance. And of course, that's not everyone, which is why we want to get this information out in front of as many people as possible to share that information. And here you'll see, here's the rental assistance here, the KEPA, Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance, right? The acronym there is KEPA. So if you hear that, there's acronyms for everything, of course. And there's some other things here like the severe weather shelters and things like that, homes for all, tiny cabins. So these are some other initiatives here, but we're not going to focus on that tonight. We are focused on the KEPA, right? So I'm just going to click on it and you'll see it's just going to take you back to the same page. So don't be afraid. But I think that's also helpful to click on links because it's like, okay, well, I'm here, so I should click on this link, but now it's going to take me somewhere else. No, you're already actually here. Okay. Oftentimes, there is more than you to access information. All right. And so here it says, Kitsap County currently has an operational eviction prevention and assistance for renters impacted by COVID-19 who are behind on rent and are at risk of losing their housing, meeting the requirement in Governor Inslee's Proclamation 2109. We anticipate many renters applying and appreciate your patience. Okay. And so every Wednesday, Kitsap Public Health, Bremerton Housing Authority, KCR, and now the county come on, and we're hoping to add to those resources. Come on, and we talk about this, right? We talk about housing, homelessness, and everything kind of centered around that, so that you have the most up-to-date information. And typically, oh, thank you, BK. Typically, Matt will report out, where the wait list is, the movement, how many people have come off the wait list, how many dollars have come into the county to keep people into their homes, which is a phenomenal amount of money when you consider, we're Kitsap County, King, Pierce, there are a lot of larger counties that are close to us, but there is so much need right here. Okay. And so we're not going to get into filling out the application tonight. We'll do that later on this week, and we'll kind of go over that. But what I want you to understand here is there is a lot of information, a lot of resources for you if you need help to complete your application, right? And Gather Together, Grow Together is one such organization. We can do that for you. But also, those who need printing can visit any Kitsap Regional Library branch for free printing, which is fantastic. You can download the printable pre-application in English or Spanish, and the PDF file can be printed and completed by hand, which is awesome, right? We can also help people who do not have internet access or need additional help with the pre-application packet. Be aware that we receive many calls about this program and may not respond immediately. Call KCR at 360-473-2035 to get help with your application. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat also. Now, again, because there's the need and the demand is so high for help, you can reach out to other organizations, and we'll get there in a minute. If you are already enrolled in the Bremerton Housing Authority or Housing Kitsap programs, you should contact your agency directly to apply for rental assistance. Okay, and so anytime you can, kind of bypass the middle person, then that would be, beneficial, right? Again, many folks have I'll give you an example. We have folks that already work with BHA or KCR, but they also work with us, and so they like to have that support of having a person or organization that is kind of taking that journey with them. It can be cause a lot of anxiety. It's so high stakes when you're trying to stay in your home and you're behind on your rent. And so to have an organization or a person that you can trust to kind of go on that journey with you can be, very helpful. Especially if, like, I don't remember who I talked to. I get really flustered. I'm having difficulties understanding what information they want, and so it can be, that is pretty scary, right? And then, they're also very busy. So, not to say that they're short and it's like, here's the information, goodbye, hang up. But you may feel like, look, I just need a little bit more time to ask some questions and to feel, just kind of safe and secure in it. So, you can contact them directly, or you can contact, an agency person from one of the other organizations that help, or someone that you're already working with that you trust and you feel comfortable with, and they're very happy to assist in that capacity. If you are a youth or a young adult up to age 26, you may apply with Coffee Oasis, which is at 837 4th Street in Bremerton, or you can give them a call at 360-377-5560. And so that's awesome. We know that Coffee O does a lot of work here in this community with kids and young adults there. Put that information up there. Now, what is really important is oftentimes we think of these programs as programs for the renter, right? But that is not true. We want it to be a win-win. And therefore, or the right wants it to be a win-win. I didn't initiate this program. If you are a landlord initiating an application for assistance, please note that for applications received starting September 1, 21, Washington State Department of Commerce has updated their agreement language. You can review this updated agreement on the TRAP rent payment agreement form. Okay, so that information is there. So again, a landlord can take the initiative and help their tenant because, of course, they're also helping themselves, right? Landlords need to be able to pay their mortgage. Many times, landlords are using it. Maybe they're a little bit on in their years, and they're using it as a way to supplement their income and support themselves, and so they're dependent upon that rent that comes in. And so, this thing is affecting everyone. And unfortunately, it can create a scenario where it seems like, people are against each other, right? The tenant can't pay the rent, the landlord needs the money, and where are we going to get the money from? I need you to pay me or move, and I need to, for you to give me grace. I can't pay because of the circumstances, and so that's what this program is for. And so, if you can cultivate your relationship and communication uh, in regards to the tenant landlord relationship, the better off you're going to be on both sides, right? And then previously, I told a story about how one year my landlord asked if I could actually pay the rent early, and so there was something going on in his life or business or something where he needed some extra revenue to come in early, and so he actually offered a discount if I was able to pay, I think it was a month or 2 months early. I think it was a month, and so I offered to pay, like 2 months early, because I was able to do that, and that was just a way that we could, cultivate our relationship. And so if on the other side, hey, I'm behind on my rent, this happened, I got injured or whatever, can you not evict me immediately? Can we work something out? And so you just want to build that relationship. So we have a question in the chat here. Do you know when the eviction moratorium was lifted? I don't quite remember, BK, because they moved the goalpost so many times. Uh, Everyone obviously was feeling the pain, and they wanted to try to lift it, but then new variants and everything else was going on. It got so complicated, so they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and then finally it got to a point. I think they did a bridge program where it stopped. It was going to stop the moratorium, but there was still something that was in place, and even now there's still something in place, right? So you can a landlord can go through the eviction process now, but there are some things that the tenant can do while they're trying to figure it out and get their assistance, and we'll definitely get into that for sure. So what you'll see here, Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance is 50% annual area median income limits by household size. Okay. And so for one person, that's $32,950. For two people, that's $37,650. For three people, $42,350. For four people, $47,050. And for five is $50,850. Now they also have it listed for six, seven, and eight. Uh, and then that'll be fewer and fewer households, but I'll leave that graphic up for a little bit so you can see that. And again, even if you are not sure, a lot of times we may say, you know what, I'm not eligible for this, I'm not really sure what area median income limits are. Give a call, right? At the end of the day, all they can say is, sorry, you don't qualify, but maybe you do. So just double check, make sure that, hey, maybe the website wasn't updated or something like that. Just, don't say no to yourself, let them tell you no. That's the best advice that I can give you. I see that all the time where folks, you're welcome, PK, where folks will say, "Mm, a friend told me that this is how this program works, so I can't use it." And the friend only knows the program in regards to how it applies to them, not how it applies to your situation. And so then the person doesn't access the resource or ask questions on their own behalf, and then they miss out. And I've had this experience with scores and scores of folks, students, clients, friends, it doesn't matter. And so when they come and they tell me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can't use that program. That program doesn't work for me." I was like, "Well, why do you say that? Did someone from whatever the agency was tell you that?" They're like, "No, no, no. My friend uses that resource, and they said that that's not how it works. I'm not eligible." Like, no, please, please give them a call, have that conversation, because your circumstances are unique to you, right? And they don't know all the ins and outs of how these programs work, right? And here it is, this first bullet. If you aren't sure if you qualify, you can still download, complete, and submit the pre application anyway. We may be able to refer tenants who don't qualify for this eviction prevention or utility assistance program to other programs for support. And that's exactly true, right? Let me go ahead and highlight that. This is so important. Um, whatever your need may be, unmet needs, you may not even know what your needs are, right? Hey, I was coming in here for eviction assistance and I found out that you helped with utilities or, weatherization or internet. There's all kinds of different things and resources that exist out there. And so just inquire, right? It's just a little bit of time, but it can really positively impact your life just by kind of advocating for yourself and asking the questions. Okay. So you can do that. They have included a checklist to help you prepare for the pre application. Note that you do not need to have all of this information to fill out the form. And they're saying that with an exclamation point, right? They're encouraging you to come on, get the process going. However, the more information you can provide us, the faster we can process your application. And this is absolutely true, right? So, they're not going to be able to process your full application until you have all of the information that they need in order to qualify you as a yes or no or move you on to the next step. So, while you should not wait until you have everything done, you do need to be proactive and get started immediately. Okay. And here in this bullet point, I was talking about that before. This program is only for renters and landlords. Homeowners are not eligible to apply for this program unless they are the landlord, right? And as I said before, there are many folks that are using, they have a rental property, um, and that's how they supplement their income, and that's how they're able to survive, right? In this I guess I should say in this country, in this county. Utility assistance covers the following bills. Okay, so this is also important to know that there is such a thing as assistance that can cover electricity, water, sewer, gas, garbage pickup, and home energy costs. Okay, so again, if you are struggling with any of these, again, call because there may be some help for you. Okay. A little bit of history on this. This program is funded by grants from the Department of Treasury and the Washington State Department of Commerce, which is administered by the Kitsap County Department of Human Services Housing and Homelessness Division and operated by Kitsap Community Resources through Housing Solutions Center. Bremerton Housing Authority and Housing Kitsap are operating this eviction assistance program for tenants served by these organizations. Personally identifying household information is not provided to the federal government, so that's a good FYI there. Households are prior following methods. Number one, households must be at or below.
Unknown caller.
Sorry about that. Households are prioritized by the following methods. Households must be at or below 50% AMI. And I should probably put that in the chat, right? So let me go ahead and pop that in there. All right. I'll go ahead and copy that so you have it. Boom. There you go. So number one, I just read, and that was the households must be at or below 50% AMI. I'm going to put that in the chat here. Number two, households with one or more individuals who are unemployed and have been unemployed for 90 days before the application date are prioritized to be assisted before households that are not unemployed, right? And so that makes sense, right? Obviously, if you're unemployed, then you probably have a greater need because you're not earning anything right now. So that is good to know. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put those two things up there. All right. Do you have any questions or concerns about the eviction process? Washington State has implemented numerous changes to the eviction process in the state. Some of these changes are permanent, others are temporary. Please read the 5160 Resources and Summary PDF. for information and the overview about many of the changes in Washington state eviction law. Now we will cover this in the upcoming months here because I think this is so important here. Is that adjusted monthly income AMI? No, the AMI is the uh, area median income. Area median income. All right. We're gonna cover the eviction law. Oh, you may have missed me say. Yeah, I said it earlier. Uh, because understanding what your rights are critical, 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 critical. And unfortunately, we can let's assume that everyone operates in good faith. And so if your landlord is evicting you or doing something that you don't think is right, it may not be because they're mean and evil, right? It could be they just don't know what the law is, right? Yeah, I've got a rental property, I'm renting it out, and I didn't know that the law has changed, or I didn't know that I could do this or I could do that, or I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. So it could be that's the situation, right? So it could be the other one too, but benefit of the doubt, right? So it is important for you to read these things. And I know that we don't like reading the fine print, but when it comes to where you lay your head, you need to know your rights. That is critical. So take a little bit of time, you know, if you are an insomniac, this could be your evening reading, 30 minutes before, uh, and just, read through it just so you have a little bit of an understanding. Now, that said, the resources below can help provide information about these changes and may provide additional assistance or services. So I'm just going to click on this here and you'll see it takes us right here. And so this is the new guidance on the SB 1 5160. I'm going to put that in the chat here. Let me just go ahead and see if I can copy that. And I'm going to put the link here so you have it. But again, because I showed you how to get to the website, you know where to go now, which is awesome. But it's also good just to have the links, right? But when it often happens is we're so busy and we're like, okay, yeah, I want this information. That's good stuff. But I can't look at it today. I'll look at it this weekend. And then when the weekend comes, like, what was he saying? Where did he go? And now you've got the PDF, but you have no idea how you got to the PDF. You want to access the other stuff. So, I want to show you multiple ways to access that information so that it is as helpful for you as possible. And you can see this is a short read, right? Definitions: unlawful detainer action, eviction process against tenants who have failed to pay rent or have violated their lease. The landlord must follow this legal process to ask the court to restore their rights to possess a rental unit. Man, I said I wasn't going to read this right now, but I kind of want to read it. Let me go a bit of this. I'll try to go quickly over it, and hopefully I won't get too far in the weeds here. For renters, these protections apply to tenants protected by the Residential Landlord Tenant Act, mobile home park tenants, individuals who were living in transient lodging, such as a hotel or a motel or a camping area, for 30 days or more prior to March 1, 2020, or for more than 30 days after March 1, 2020, unless they receive a 7-day eviction notice. If you were unable to pay rent between March 1, 2020 and December 30, 2021, if you were your landlord may not change your late fees or other charges for unpaid rent during that time period. Okay, let me say that again. Your landlord may not charge you late fees or other charges for unpaid rent during that time period. Again, it very well could be your landlord doesn't know this, and so that's why they're asking for these fees, right? So always you can educate your landlord. This information is readily available to you, and I'll also show you where you can uh, get some other resources where you can talk to people. But again, we're going to kind of keep it positive, right? They just didn't know. It wasn't that they're just being evil or they're trying to cheat you or whatever the case may be. Or Your landlord may not report to a prospective landlord that you did not pay rent and that an unlawful detainer action was filed against you because you did not pay rent during that time period. So this one is really important, right? So you may end up moving somewhere, and the next landlord is going to say, hey, well, what kind of tenant was this person? Well, you need to be able to get into a space, right? So if they're going to give you a bad uh you know reference, then that's going to make it more difficult. But can the landlord demand back rent? So if you get rental assistance through this eviction assistance program, basically they're saying, hey, we're going with a clean slate, so we're going to catch up. Whatever is qualified for, the landlord is going to agree to that payment for the back rent and up to however it's paid. And then it's like, hey, it's a clean slate going forward. So we can't come back later and say, well, only got 80% of the rent and you still owe this. And nope, that's not how it works. So you get a clean slate. And so that's a great question. And what I also want to say to that is, again, I cannot stress enough the relationship that you have, the relationship you have with your landlord. Okay. Housing is its own pandemic, if you will, and not just in Kitsap County, everywhere. There just really isn't any affordable housing, and so the relation is kind of like the devil, right? And the grass is greener on the other side. You may have even had a strained relationship with your landlord. But the cool thing about us is we can exercise our emotional intelligence and say, you know what? This is about where me and my family stay. I'm not going to cut my nose despite my face. Whatever my landlord is going through is on him or her, or, the company, or whatever whoever the landlord is. And I'm not going to get caught up in that. And they've done some things in the past that was unsavory. But you know what? At the end of the day, I got to have a place to stay. The alternative doesn't look great, and you can get more flies. What is it? Get more bees with honey. So uh please take that to heart. um, there are evictions that are happening in this county now. We know that housing, the rental market is insane, but so is the mortgage market, right? So both are just it's not great. It's not great right now. And so you can find yourself in a really bad way if you are stuck trying to find a place to go, and there's no place for you to go. Oh, thank you, BK. I appreciate that. I did reset my router and some other things. And matter of fact, some of our board members are in that exact situation right now, and it's really frustrating for them, and for me too, because I'm helpless to do anything for it. But they have to move, and they're running out of time, and they can't find anything, right? They can't find anything that's in their price range, uh, and so that's tough. So what's going to happen if and when they run out of time? And so, unfortunately, in their situation, they actually have to go, right? Their time is just coming to an end based on how things worked out there. But if you have control over that situation, again, that those folks may be going through things. They could have lost someone through the pandemic, whatever. We don't know what their situation is, and so that's kind of on them what they're dealing with. And so uh, I just encourage you to try to create a relationship, repair the relationship, grow the relationship, so that you can be housing secure going forward. All right. Prospective landlord may not hold it against you that you did not pay rent between March 1, 2020 and December 30, 2021 in considering your rental application. A current or future landlord may not deny, discourage application for, or make unavailable any rental unit because of your medical history, including prior or current COVID-19 exposure or infection. Uh, A current or future landlord may not request or consider records or history unless they are necessary to evaluate your request for a reasonable accommodation or a reasonable modification. Okay. If a landlord or a prospective landlord violates the requirements above, you may sue them for the violation and get them to pay your attorney's fees and court costs. Now, I'm going to add a little caveat here because this is one that I've seen, right? So, although landlords cannot do these things, sometimes that happens. And while you are looking for a place to stay, right? That's time, right? You're losing time. And while you may want to, and you have the legal right to sue them, what is happening while you're trying to go through that process, right? Trying to find an attorney, uh, figuring all that out, serving them, whatever that process is. You still need a place to stay, right? And so, I'm not saying don't do it. All I'm saying is that I've worked with a lot of folks that have felt like they've been done wrong by the landlord, and they may have had a case on that, but they are still in need of finding a place, and they can't get derailed by, well, I don't know what to do, you know. Uh, so just be cognizant of that, right? That's not gonna you're probably not gonna stay in your in that space, or if let's say you're looking for a space, right? And they're discriminating against you in that way, you're still gonna go on and look for the next place, right? All right. So for landlords, these protections apply to tenants protected by the Residential Landlord Tenant Act, mobile home park tenants, individuals who are living in transient lodging, such as a hotel or motel or camping area, for 30 days or more prior to March 1, 2020, or for more than 30 days after March 1, 2020, unless they receive a 7-day eviction notice. Uh, yes, cognizant. I think that should be the word of the day. If a tenant was unable to pay rent between March 1, 2020 and until December 30, 2021, you may not charge late fees or other charges for unpaid rent during that time period, and you may not report to a tenant's prospective landlord that the tenant did not pay rent or that you filed an unlawful detainer action because the tenant did not pay rent during that time period. You may not hold it against the prospective tenant that they did not pay rent between March 1, 2020 and December 30, 2021 in considering the rental agreement. You may not deny, discourage application for, or make unavailable any rental unit because of the current or prospective tenant's medical history, including prior or current COVID-19 exposure or infection. You may not request or consider a tenant's perspective or or prospective tenant's medical records or history unless necessary to evaluate the request for reasonable accommodation or reasonable modification. If you violate the requirements above, the tenant or prospective tenant may sue you for the violation and get you to pay their attorney fees and court costs. Repayment plans. Now, this is for renters. Now, if you notice, that was pretty much the same language, right, as the for the tenant. And so this is a resource that you can have, but it's all often very helpful to speak in the voice of who it is regarding, right? Repayment plans for renters. Repayment plans are available to tenants protected by the Residential Landlord Tenant Act, mobile home park tenants, individuals who are living in transient lodging, such as a hotel or motel or camping area, for 30 days or more prior to March 1, 2020, or for more than 30 days after March 1, 2020, unless they receive a 7-day eviction. If you have remaining unpaid rent that accrued between March 1, 2020 and December 30, 2021, your landlord must offer you a reasonable schedule for repayment of the unpaid rent. For the repayment schedule to be considered reasonable, your monthly payments under the repayment plan cannot be more than one third of your monthly rental charges at the time you are unable to pay. For example, if your rent was $1,500 per month during the pandemic when you were unable to pay, you may not be offered a repayment plan that requires you to pay more than $500 a month, one third of your monthly rental charges, to get caught up. Okay. If you do not accept the terms of the reasonable repayment plan within 14 days, your landlord may start legal proceedings in court to evict you, called an unlawful detainer action. Unlawful detainer cases require a special court process and can move quickly through the court system. In some counties, the eviction resolution pilot program requires that the landlord take steps to reach an agreement with you regarding repayment of your unpaid rent before the landlord can file an unlawful detainer against you. The repayment plan must not require payment until 30 days after the plan has been offered to you, cover rent only and not any late fees, attorney's fees, or other fees and charges, allow for the payments from any source of income. Okay. Allow from payments from any source of income or from nonprofit organizations, churches, or religious organizations or governmental entities. Okay. So that's important, right? So maybe you have, hey, I appreciate that. The PDF is actually only 4 pages. So we're already on page 2. Um, so that's really important, right? So it's like, hey, I'm not working right now, but I've got a church or a nonprofit or a government entity that is willing to, to pay this. They have to accept that, which is awesome. And so this is a lot different than how things were in the past, right? Just respond to this person quickly. Thank you for your patience there. Okay. Uh, not be conditioned on your compliance with the rental agreement, your payment of attorney's fees, court costs, or other costs related to litigation if you default on the rental agreement, a requirement that you apply for governmental benefits or provide proof that you are receiving or have received governmental benefits, or a waiver of your right to receive an eviction notice and notice of an opportunity to respond to an unlawful detainer action before your landlord can obtain an eviction order against you, called a writ of resolution. Now, I understand that seems pretty technical, and that's why there are resources that can help you to understand what those things are, right? Don't go through this stuff alone. You are not alone. A lot of times we feel like, you know what, I shouldn't be in this situation, whether it was my fault or not. We can have guilt, we can have all these emotions that are centered around it. I'm a private person, I don't want people in my business. Please reach out and be help seeking, right? Don't go through this alone. You don't have to and you shouldn't during this time. If you default on rent owed under the repayment plan, your landlord may apply for reimbursement from the landlord mitigation program. See the bottom of this page, or proceed with the unlawful detainer action subject to any requirements under the eviction resolution pilot program. That says to see page 4. If funds for the rental assistance from a federal, state, local, private, or nonprofit program are available, you and your landlord may continue to seek rental assistance to reduce or eliminate that unpaid rent balance. In an unlawful detainer action, the court must consider your circumstances, including decreased income or increased expenses due to COVID-19 and repayment plan terms offered. If your landlord does not offer you a repayment plan as described here, you may raise that as a defense in court if your landlord files legal proceedings to evict you for non-payment of rent, and the judge can stop the eviction. So I'm going to stop here because the rest should be your reading material. And again, this kind of is in the same voice, but for the landlord, right? So it's kind of the same thing. And here, this is the landlord mitigation program. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat because, again, some of us in the audience uh, may be landlords, or you may have friends or family that are landlords. I am in need of your assistance after this if you have time. Unfortunately, it will have to, I think it might be your bedtime. I am the recorder for the Juneteenth meetings, which start at 7 p.m. and they usually end at about 9:45. So if you're still up at 9:45, I can give you assistance. Otherwise, I can maybe do it through text if that works. And so there's that information there. This is the landlord mitigation LMP, and the link is there. I think that might have gotten cut off there. Let me go ahead and copy that a little bit. Whoops, that took me to the site there, but that's not what we want. We just want the link here. Let me just copy that. I didn't get quite the whole link there. Copy and paste. Okay. And let me go ahead and enlarge that for all of us. All right. And so the Department of Commerce provides information about the LMP on its website, which I accidentally clicked on. SB 5160 added language to expand the scope of the LMP as summarized on the next page. Again, Landlord Mitigation Program. That's what LMP is. Landlords may seek reimbursement from the LMP of up to 15 grand in unpaid rent that accrued between March 1, 2020 and December 30, 2021. If these two things, the tenant voluntarily vacated or abandoned the tenancy, but not because of unlawful detainer action, and was low income, limited resource, or experiencing hardship, or the tenant defaults on repayment plan described above, the tenancy is not ended at the time of reimbursements. Landlords who received reimbursement from the LMP may not take legal action or pursue collection against tenant for damages of unpaid rent. Okay. And so this last thing here is the eviction resolution pilot program and your right to counsel. But I want to stop here. We can go over this the next time. What I want to do is just kind of recap what we went over because it was a lot of information, right? So again, this is the Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance Program. We just type that into Google there if we can't quite remember that. And we see that it pops up here. It's this first one, which is great. We know we're in the right area because we see this nice, beautiful banner, Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance. We can say, look, Ma, no hands. We can just hover over the tabs. We don't have to click anything and be afraid. It's not going to take us anywhere, right? We can scroll down and see all the goodness here because we're like Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance. Well, what's a grant? Coordinated grant applications. What? Severe weather shelter. Where's the Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance? I don't understand, right? That could be confusing. Just scroll down a little bit and you'll see the link here, KEPA, Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance. But you also see it here really bold, right? So if you happen to click on the link because you're like, oh, that's the link, it's just going to take you back up to the top of the page. You're in the right spot. Just scroll down. So that can be confusing, right? So definitely wanted to show you that. Now, again, what we went over was we talked about what the Kitsap Eviction Assistance Program is. We talked about how to apply, which is, and this is either for rental assistance, utility assistance, or both. We did not go over the application. We'll go over that another day. We talked about if you are already enrolled with Bremerton Housing Authority or Housing Kitsap, that you should contact them directly. We talked about if you are a youth up to age 26, that Coffee Oasis could help you out. And again, they're at 360-377-5560. And that link is in the chat. If you are a landlord initiating an application for assistance, there are some special rules for you and a PDF that you can access because things changed as of September 1 of 21. Now, you needed to know that we went over is that the applicant must qualify as low income at or below 50% area median income. Okay. And again, all you do is look here and see if you fit within those parameters based on how many people are in your household. Okay. The big one to take away is it doesn't matter if you know that you qualify or not. Do ask questions. You can still download, complete, and submit your application. You can still use any of the resources to help. You can call and say, hey, this is my situation. Am I eligible? Or can I do this, that, or the other? And a friendly person will walk you through what you are eligible for and may even refer you to another program or an agency that can meet an unmet need that you have, right? So a lot of times you'll call about one thing and you're like, oh man, I actually needed clothes, or I needed some furniture, or I needed, help with applying for a job, or, whatever the case may be. And it's like, oh, I was calling for this and they were able to do that. How awesome, right? There's a checklist that can help you. And you do not have to have everything completed before you start. Okay. But that will hold up your process until you get it all done. But don't wait till you have it all Start now, ask questions now because folks can help you to get all the required documentation a lot faster than you probably can on your own. If you're like, man, I'm not really sure what to do or who I access or what do I say, how do I use this website, any of those things, right? Again, this program is for renters and landlords. Okay. And the utility assistance covers electricity, water, sewer, gas, garbage pickup, and home energy costs. Okay. We talked about how this program is funded by the Department of Treasury and the Washington State Department of Commerce, and it's administered by our own Kitsap County Department of Human Services and Housing and Homelessness Division. Shout out to Kirsten Jewell and all of her team. And Kitsap Community Resources, which you see Matt Garrett and who comes on every Wednesday. So shout out to them too. And of course, the Bremerton Housing Authority, which is Jill Stanton and Shady Sharp and all the rest of those folks over there that all come on to the conduit every Wednesday. Okay. None of your personal identifying information is provided to the federal government. Okay. Any questions or concerns that you may have about the eviction process? We went over that 5160 resource summary. That was that 4-page that I said that everyone should learn about. And the last thing that we talked about was the Landlord Mitigation Program, the LMP. And like I said, there are a bunch of agencies here that are designed to help you if you are going through the eviction process. So the first one is the Northwest Justice Project. Okay. And you hear us talk about that pretty much most Wednesdays, right? But here is their information there. They do an eviction defense screening line dial, which is at 855 657 8387. You can leave a message for a return call or apply online. I can tell you that one of my clients actually did this the other day. They left a message and they got back to them pretty quickly. So, and then they were able to process because they were going through the eviction process. So they were able to stop that process and help them out. So, shout out to Northwest Justice Project. Another one is Kitsap Legal, and you can reach them at 360-479-6125. More information for you is washingtonlawhelp.org and also Eviction Resources and Eviction Defense Helper Tool. Okay, so these are some online resources for you. So, if you're calling, let's say, Northwest Justice Project, and you've called, you left that message, you're waiting for a call back, go to the washingtonlawhelp.org, read up, you know, gain understanding and some insight on what the rules are, what the procedures are, what the steps are, right? When we're dealing with the unknown, that could be very stressful for us, right? And it's like, man, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. I'm waiting on a call back. I've got this eviction. I'm stressed out. There is knowledge is a really powerful tool, but it's only powerful if you apply it, right? Kitsap Dispute Resolution Center, shout out to them. They're awesome. Eviction Resolution Pilot Program for evictions due to non-payment of rent. You can contact housing at kitsapdrc.org or 360-698-0968. Oops. And see, there again, I clicked on the link. And what's nice about that is these links here, if you click, you noticed how it opened up in a new tab. So I always like to tell folks that because oftentimes what happens is, and I'll do it again, right? We click on a link and, well, you're not going to do it for me, and then it takes us somewhere else and we're like, oh man, but where was I? Because there's no back button here, right? If you're looking at my mouse up here in the upper left-hand corner, I can't click to the left here, right? It actually opened it up in a new tab. So this is actually where we're at. So just a little hint for you, because I showed you again, that's why there's two tabs of Dispute Resolution Center up here. Okay. And maybe in some future weeks, we'll kind of go over that too. All right. Now, funding opportunity for by and for community organizations assisting diverse populations. Again, Gather Together, Grow Together is one of those organizations. We'll get into who all those organizations are in a future show. You hear Matt talk about it, about us all the time, where he names them all off. I can never remember them all, so I don't want to leave anyone out. So it's either you mention them all or you mention none of them. Uh, so if you are going through a buy-in for, then you actually get priority, which is awesome. And here's some grant applications for organizations are eligible. So if you are an organization that wants to buy for, you can do that. And just some really, really quick stats as we end here. Number of unique, this is as of December 31, so the end of last year. Number of unique households assisted with rent and or utility payments, 2,399. Total amount of unpaid rent and utility assistance paid to landlords and utility providers to prevent evictions, 12.9 million. 12.9 million Kitsap County. Yeah, I'm pausing on that because that is a ton of money. That's a ton of money in this county. Average number of days from submitting a pre-application to the waitlist eligibility and documentation are reviewed and the complete application has been approved, 106 days. That's important, folks. You need to know this isn't a fast process. So you've already been behind on your rent and the landlord has been contacting you. Maybe you've already started the process. Maybe you're getting ready to start the process. This isn't typically a really fast process. And so again, emotional intelligence, calm, education, all those things are going to be really important. Grace that you extend to yourself, because you're not going to get a quick resolution, right? And so 106 days, well, that's 3 months and 2 weeks, approximately. So that can feel like an eternity, right? That's a quarter of a year. And again, that's the average, right? So that means that there's, certain number below that's faster. There's a certain number that takes more than 106 days. So keep that in mind. Number of days currently to make a payment to the landlord once the complete application has been approved is 15 days, right? So you're really looking here at 121 days on average. That's about 4 months. Okay. For more detailed information, view our KEPA data summary. And that's where we're going to stop, right? This is the KEPA pre-application. We'll get into that later on this week. I want to take some time with this and kind of go over it. But if you get to it before we actually go over it, 360-473-2035. Honey versus vinegar. Absolutely. All right, everyone. That was a powerful hour. Oh, look. There's all the buy-in force right there. So here are the distribution partners: Kitsap Community Resources, Housing Kitsap, Bremerton Housing Authority, Coffee Oasis, the KEPA Outreach Partners, aka the Buy-in Force, us, Gather Together, Grow Together, Kayak, Surviving Change, PYA, Partnering for Youth Achievement, Homeless and Poverty Management. Okay? So they're all here. A lot of good information. I'm so glad that you can join us for this hour. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can reach us at, you can always get us at the Conduit Podcast Show at gmail.com. You can always put your questions in the chat. But more than that, when regard to eviction assistance, please contact us at 360-373-3000 or email us at gather2grow@g2g2.org. Again, for those that are listening on Anchor or Apple, gather the number 2 grow at g2g2.org. And if you want to visit us in person, we're at 419 Park Avenue in downtown Bremerton. All right. I think BK has said it best. Ciao. I am R1 Cameron. This is The Conduit. We'll see you next time.